Hello, Centralia. Shane and Rachel here. This is Centralia On Air. On today's show, we've got Cameron Prescott and Rose McVey in studio. Rose and Cameron stopped by to tell us about SSM's Wound Care Center and their hyperbaric oxygen treatment chambers.
All right. Thank you guys for being here today.
You're welcome.
Cameron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name's Cameron Prescott. I'm the director of wound care for St. Mary's and for Good Samaritan. Actually just moved here from Idaho in August. So I've been here since August running the wound centers, having a great time. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. And Rose, tell us about you and what you do at SSM.
Well, I've been with SSM Health for quite some time, and I work in our marketing department. So most of my job is to communicate and listen to others, but to make sure that people are aware of the services and the healthcare providers we have to offer in the area.
That's great.
Speaking of the services you offer, Cameron, you head up the Wound Care Center.
Correct.
Tell us more about what you guys do.
So we take care of any type of wound, chronic or acute. We have a board-certified general surgeon who's also board-certified in wound care, and we have him full-time, and a couple of nurse practitioners that also assist in wound care. We also have, at St. Mary's, we have hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is a great treatment method for certain types of wounds.
Tell us about it. I mean, that is so exciting to know that in our rural community, we have 2 hyperbaric oxygen chambers. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. So hyperbaric refers to under pressure. That's what hyperbaric means. In a hyperbaric chamber, you have the pressure of being in the chamber at 100% oxygen. So when we talk about pressure, that is like a scuba diver, and they go down and they have to adjust to that pressure under the ocean. So in a hyperbaric chamber like we have, they measure the pressures in atmospheres, but we can convert atmospheres to feet because it's easier to understand. So a hyperbaric chamber will go to the equivalent of 66 feet of seawater, and that's generally the pressure that we treat at, is somebody at 66 feet, the equivalent of being 66 feet under seawater, breathing 100% oxygen. So at the surface where we're at right now, we breathe 21% oxygen is all that we breathe. So what that does is the pressure and the oxygen helps you get blood flow to all of your extremities. So, for instance, a diabetic doesn't have good blood flow in their feet. Mm-hmm. So if they get a wound on their foot, it's hard for that wound to heal because they don't have the blood flow to their feet to support wound healing. So if you put them in a hyperbaric chamber, the pressure and the oxygen increases the blood flow and the amount of oxygen that they're getting to their feet. And so those wounds can heal, and not just diabetic wounds. There's all kinds of treatments and wounds that we can treat with hyperbarics.
So how would you describe what one of these chambers looks like for our listeners?
So the hyperbaric chambers that we have, it's a large acrylic tube. So it just looks like glass. It's a solid piece of acrylic that's just been drilled out. So if you look at it, you feel like you're looking at a glass tube that's sitting on a metal stand with a big door on the front of it.
Kind of futuristic looking?
Oh yeah, I think it's futuristic.
Have you been in one?
I haven't been in one for a treatment,
yeah,
but I have been inside a chamber, yeah. And when you're inside, you actually can't even see the acrylic. You just feel like you're laying on a bed in a room because it's so, we keep them so clear and polished and clean.
Oh, nice.
So, and that's on purpose because a lot of people are claustrophobic, mm-hmm. and
yeah.
so that's why we could just do it in a metal tube, but
then you out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But if you go inside these acrylic tubes, you can't see it. So
Rachel and I saw pictures, and it looked like there was a screen mounted above. Is that just a TV? Or?
Yep,
Okay.
Yep, that's just a TV. It's got the chamber has some speakers inside of it so that the patients can watch TV and they can hear at the same time. So.
That's really cool.
Keep them comfortable.
Yeah, and entertained.
So, how long does a person get this kind of treatment?
So each treatment is about 120 minutes.
Okay.
And we do that 5 days a week. And the number of days of treatment will just depend on the reason that they're in there for. It could be 30 days. It could be more than that. It could be 40 days. Usually it's not more than 40 treatments, but it can be just depending on what they're in there for. We talked about a diabetic ulcer. That's usually about 30 days of treatment. But we also treat something called osteoradionecrosis of the jaw. That will have like 20 treatments, and then they'll go see a dentist, and they'll do some work on their teeth, and then they'll come back for 10 treatments after that. And then radiation injuries are usually 40 treatments.
Are there any side effects from being in one of these things for a little while? Temporary stuff?
Truthfully, the most common thing that we see is after a couple of days of treatment, they're talking about how much energy they have. They have all this energy, and that's because of all the oxygen that they've been breathing. After a couple more days, they're like, oh, I'm really tired, and it's kind of just like a roller coaster for them.
Yeah.
They're really, for a couple of days, so they'll be really high energy for a few days, and then they'll be really tired for a couple days, and then they'll just kind of level out. There's no side effects like from taking medications or anything, because you're just breathing oxygen. You're breathing 100% oxygen.
Rose, what do you think about it?
I think it's amazing. And Cameron had mentioned, how long that we've had the oxygen chamber, and actually how long we've had the wound center. And my father received treatment there about 8 years ago, so just about whenever the wound center opened here in Centralia. And he's a diabetic, and he had some kind of what we would call bed sores, because he had some illnesses, so he was not mobile, very mobile. And they were able to treat, it's amazing, they were able to treat those wounds he had without using the oxygen chamber. So there were a lot of series of treatments even before going to the next level. He was able to have healing and did not have to progress to the hyperbaric chamber. So they were taking care of those wounds, and if you see some of the wounds, it's not a pretty sight. It's a smelly experience. It's just not a pleasant experience. And to be able to see the healing just after a week or two, it was just amazing. Personally, it was amazing for my family to experience that. And so whenever I hear about and see other people going through it, it just lifts me up, because they can have such a dramatic change in their life. We've seen people not lose an extremity, not lose a foot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just amazing when they're thinking that's what's going to happen, because it has become so damaged.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that they've been able to get their life back.
These wounds that won't heal, you mentioned, one cause might be diabetes or something like that, and I assume probably most of it comes with age. What are some other reasons that a wound just wouldn't heal up?
Sometimes a wound won't heal, like Rose was talking about pressure. There's too much pressure on it consistently. Uncontrolled blood sugars can cause a wound not to heal. Sometimes there's vascular issues with blood flow that cause a wound not to heal. There can be a lot of reasons. It can be that the wound is infected, and it needs antibiotics and other treatments just to be able to get that infection out. So one of the things that we do just to combat that is we see wound patients on a weekly basis, and the doctor will debride that wound. He'll take all of that infection out every week, and then get dressings on it and put you on a pretty good care plan for taking care of that wound, so that we can keep the infection down, and or the risk of infection down, and get that wound healed. It's kind of amazing that stimulating the wound like that just causes the body just wants to heal itself.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will have a wound for a very, very long time, and they just get used to it.
Yeah.
And the body gets used to it, and so the body stops trying to heal a wound because it's just used to having it. And so then when they come into the wound center and they're able to see the doctor can kind of agitate the wound, which sounds terrible, but it's really not. It encourages the body. It reminds the body that it has this wound, and the body starts working to heal that wound again.
That's cool.
So I was wondering about the nurses. Do they have to have special training to be in there with the hyperbaric chambers?
Yeah, and actually both of my nurses have been through specialized courses for hyperbaric training, and one of them is a certified hyperbaric registered nurse. There's only a handful of that qualification of nurse in the country. There really is very, very few nurses who have that credential, and I have one, and one that's ready to take her test. So in the next several months I'll have two, and most places in the country don't even have one. They have other qualifications. So we have nurses that are more highly trained than what you'll generally find in a hyperbaric unit.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if I remember correctly, the staff also has some extra special certifications in wound care
Correct.
and treatment also in addition, that's different
Yep.
than the hyperbaric training and certification.
Correct. All my nurses are wound care certified, and most of them are ostomy certified as well. I've got a couple that are hopefully we'll be able to get them ostomy certified in the next few months as well.
And what is that?
An ostomy is a opening that they use to drain the bladder or bowel in extreme cases. So.
Okay. Are there lots of different kinds of chambers, or pretty much just one that the whole industry kind of uses?
There's two types of chambers that you'll see. There's what's called a monoplace chamber, and as the name indicates, it's just for one person. One person can fit in it on a stretcher, and they can, and that's what we have here. We have two monoplace chambers. They also have what they call a multiplace chamber, which is a very, very large chamber that's built into a hospital generally, and it can seat as many people as they build it for. The downside to a multiplace chamber is that once it's there, it's permanent. Mm-hmm. It's not going anywhere. A monoplace chamber, you can move it around. They're also a lot less expensive than building a multiplace chamber. It's more economical, and it makes a lot more sense. Any hospital really could, if they wanted to, they could buy it, and they could find a place in their hospital to put a monoplace chamber. With a multiplace chamber, you just don't have that freedom.
So the multi ones, like, we're talking like the size of a room? Like this room?
Or bigger, yeah.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, and because it's under pressure, it's usually a bigger room because it's under pressure, so there's going to be a series of, like, doorways to go through
Like
just to get in.
chambers before you get into the actual area where the oxygen
Yeah.
is.
Have you seen
Yeah.
one of those?
Not personally. I haven't. There's not very many of them just
Yeah.
because they're so challenging to build, and there's a lot of money involved in just getting it built, and the technical side of it is a little more complicated as well, and you actually have to send a technician into the chamber for the whole treatment because you're treating multiple patients, so they have to go from patient to patient. So essentially you have a nurse in the chamber with the patients.
So they're experiencing
Yeah.
the treatment too, basically.
Yep.
But in the chambers that we have, so as Cameron said, there's two chambers here
There's
at
two
SSM
chambers.
Health St. Mary's Hospital, and a staff person is with them 100% of the time. Now,
Correct.
they're not in that chamber, but they're in the room, and they're
Correct.
visible to one another, and they can communicate with one another the full time of the treatment, which is
Correct.
very nice.
So they can
Yes.
talk back and forth even though it's all sealed up.
Yep. So we can hear on the outside of the chamber, we can hear anything that the patient says at any time during the treatment. So yeah, we can always see and hear the patient.
That would be a real pain, huh? If you couldn't, and just mouth it.
You just want to play with people and make them think that you're speaking in the air. But now the interesting thing, now I didn't know this. I was in there wanting to take pictures and I had my camera and everything, my phone, and they were telling me, Rose, you really can't do that. There's some reasons behind why you can't do it. So when the people are in the chamber, it's not like they're in there playing with their phone. That's not a possibility.
Right.
And
Correct.
Cameron can, if he wants to, can explain the technicalities behind why they can.
Sure. So you're in an oxygen-enriched environment. There's 100% oxygen in the chamber, and that's what fire likes, right? Fire likes oxygen. And so we have a pretty extensive checklist of things that we go through before every single treatment. Doesn't matter if it's your first time in the chamber or if it's your 150th time in the chamber. We have to go through this checklist and make sure that you're wearing the right kind of clothing that won't produce static, and that you don't have lotion on your hands because there's oil or alcohol in the lotion that
Oh,
could.
I didn't even think about
I didn't
that.
either.
A lot of people don't, and so anything that could produce a spark in the chamber isn't allowed in the chamber because the tiniest spark inside of an oxygen enriched environment turns into a fire, really.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's
we're
crazy.
very, very careful. Now, that sounds scary, and it is, but every time that checklist has been completed and there's regular maintenance on the chambers, there's never been any type of fire or issue in the chamber.
Just got to follow the rules.
Yep,
That's right,
exactly.
and that's why they follow the rules, and they are certified and skilled and very competent, because they make sure that we all do it. Even someone like me who has no experience in it, who just happens to be walking through and wants to take a few pictures.
So hopefully your patients are patient.
Yeah, right.
They are. Yeah.
You want your pilot in a plane going through their checklist before
Yes.
takeoff. We follow the same,
It's a very similar protocol. It's a big long checklist, and they go through it every single time.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay, so if someone's interested, do they have to be referred by their doctor, or can they just call you and set up an appointment, or how does that work?
It really depends on their insurance. Some insurance companies will say that you have to be referred by your primary care doctor. A lot of the times that's not the case, and they can just give us a call. Even if they have to be referred, if they give us a call, we can reach out to their doctor and we can start that process. So yeah, absolutely. Anybody can give us a call at any time, and we can start the process for them.
That's great. So do you have people coming from all over to...
So here in Centralia at SSM Health St. Mary's Hospital, they're the only site with oxygen chambers for at least a good hour, when you almost go every direction, north, south, east, and going towards the river. You're going to have to go further to be able to have that type of a service. So it is unique, and it is wonderful that the organization has contributed that to this community.
Yeah. All right, this is Centralia On Air. We have Cameron and Rose from the Wound Care Center at SSM Health. We've been talking about hyperbaric oxygen treatment, HBO for short. When we come back, we're going to have a little fun and quiz these guys on the other HBO abbreviation. So stick around, we'll be right back. Shane and Rachel here. This is Centralia On Air. We have Cameron and Rose from SSM's Wound Care Center with us today. All right, guys, as you know, there's a pretty popular premium cable channel named HBO. We thought we'd ask you some fun trivia questions about it. So question 1, besides hyperbaric oxygen, what does the other well-known HBO abbreviation stand for?
Home box office.
You got it.
Look at you.
The next one is yours, Cameron.
Oh, no.
One of the creators of HBO had originally named it the Green Channel as they were shopping the idea around, but it was eventually renamed Home Box Office to better target their Hollywood and event programming.
All right, question 2. HBO got started in 1972. What other premium movie channel was started in direct competition of HBO in the early 80s? Was it Showtime, Cinemax, or Starz?
I'm going to guess and say Showtime.
Me too.
Yeah. Yay! Woohoo! By 1982, HBO was becoming very popular. So a few movie studios got together and launched 2 competing services, Showtime and the Movie Channel.
Okay, question 3, true or false? The Sopranos was HBO's first series to be nominated for an Emmy.
I'm going to say true.
Right, Cameron. It's true.
I only saw one episode, and it was not a good one to see.
Uh-oh.
Have you seen it?
Bits and pieces, yeah.
Yeah, I was a little shocked and appalled, so,
Prior to 1999, no cable show had ever been nominated for a Best Drama Emmy. But that all changed with the first season of The Sopranos, which racked up 16 nominations that year.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
Maybe we do need to go back.
Yeah.
Okay, question 4, another true or false. Originally, HBO was on the air for 9 hours a day.
True.
True.
These guys know their HBO.
You know.
Good job, Cameron. 50-50.
Yeah.
For almost the first decade, HBO provided programming for roughly 9 hours per day. It wasn't until Showtime offered a 24-hour schedule that HBO decided to match it.
Okay, question 5. Last one. Can we go 5 for 5?
Cameron's on a roll.
I don't know. This one could be for Rose.
Not counting sports, HBO's first live event was coverage for what? Was it a polka festival, a Rolling Stones concert, or a Broadway play?
Okay, polka? No. No.
I don't think. I'm going to say a Broadway play.
Polka. Like
wow.
what?
No.
It was the 1973 Pennsylvania Polka Festival, a 3-hour extravaganza. Coincidentally, HBO subscriptions fell from 14,000 to 8,000 that year. I wonder why.
Well,
Wow.
I liked a polka. I do enjoy
yeah?
the dance,
Okay.
but I couldn't imagine watching it for 3 hours. So,
No.
4 out of 5, that ain't bad, guys.
and it's all due to Cameron.
Oh, you got the first one. I never would have
Good
gotten
fun
home,
question.
so.
There you go. All right, Cameron and Rose, thank you so much for being here today and playing along with us. We hope to have you back again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Stick around. We'll be right back. You're listening to Centralia On Air.
Shane and Rachel here. You're listening to Centralia On Air. Rachel, how you been?
I've been good.
Yeah?
Got my taxes done.
Hey, yeah.
I waited a little late, but not too late.
No, right. Well, that's a relief because you know what Tuesday is, right? Tax day.
Woohoo!
So do you do your own taxes or?
No, I don't do my own taxes. I have a tax guy.
She's got a guy.
I got a guy.
She knows a guy.
What about you?
Well, I'm glad you asked. The way I do my taxes
Wait.
What?
We don't have time for that. You want to know why?
Why?
Because it's time for the top 5.
Okay. With tax season coming to an end, Rachel and I thought it'd be fun to give you the top 5 things you probably didn't know about tax season. So, number 1, the tax code is super long, like over 70,000 pages long. The code is so long, it would take even the fastest readers more than 1,200 hours to get through it all. And that is just one reason why so many people pay professionals to prepare their taxes.
Like me.
Like you.
But not only is it long, it also changes a lot. So that brings us to number 2. Since 2001, there have been more than 4,500 changes to the tax code. Some of these changes, however, work out in the taxpayer's favor, such as when new credits are introduced.
Everybody loves a good tax credit.
Heck yeah.
But if there's someone happy about a tax change, you can pretty much bet there's someone just as equally unhappy about it, huh?
Yes.
Number 3, if you're late filing your taxes, there's good news. You can claim a tax refund within 3 years of the tax year in question. The bad news, for most taxpayers, if you don't file your tax return within the allowed 3-year window, any refund money you might have gotten goes into the U.S. Treasury. In April 2016, $950 million in federal tax refunds sat unclaimed by taxpayers who didn't file a return. That's why it's so important to file. You might have refund money about to be recycled into the Treasury.
All right, number 4. When we think about tax evasion, we tend to picture rich celebrities hiding loads of income. But back in 2015, a report found that close to 1,600 IRS workers willingly avoided taxes over the course of 10 years, most of whom were not actually fired. And while it's a small percentage of the agency's employees, roughly 160 workers per year out of 85,000.
All right, last but not least, number 5, tax scams. It's a busy time of year for scam artists. Each year, criminals target taxpayers to steal their personal information or their tax refunds. You might receive threatening phone calls from someone claiming to be a representative of the IRS, or you might even receive an email that they need to verify your information to fix an issue. A good rule of thumb, at tax time, trust no one. Just remember, the IRS will send you information through the mail. If you're unsure about anything, you can always call the IRS directly. I bet that's a fun phone call.
Right.
The hold time must be
Right.
ridiculous.
This happened to me last year.
What?
I got a letter in the mail from the IRS.
Oh, really?
And I was unsure. I was like, am I getting scammed? What's going on here? So I took it to my tax guy, and he was like, yeah, this is real. You need to call this number. So I called the IRS directly and got the issue straightened out and was all good.
Was someone trying to take your stuff and they caught it, or?
No, I was switching addresses kind of back and forth. And so like I would use my parents' address and then I'd use my new address. And so I had just a lot of like 2 different addresses out there. So it was kind of confusing. And they just wanted to verify I was who I said I was.
Yeah, everything's legit.
Yeah.
You are a rare example of the system actually working the way it's supposed to. All right, that's our top 5 things you probably didn't know about tax season. You're listening to Centralia On Air with Shane and Rachel. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the community calendar, so stick around. This is Centralia On Air.
Welcome back. This is Centralia On Air with Shane and Rachel. Here's a look at your community calendar. Centralia Cultural Society presents Murder by the Book, a teen murder mystery that will be held at the Centralia Cultural Society on Friday, April 20th and Saturday, April 21st at 7. Tickets are $10.
Marion County Coalition Against Drug Use will host an overdose awareness event on Thursday, April 19th from 5 to 7 p.m. in Bryan Memorial Park in Salem. They will have guest speaker Eddie Veltman, information booths, a memorial walk, and a demonstration for parents hidden in plain sight.
The 13th annual Kyle Price Memorial Ride will honor the life of a local Marine on Saturday, April 28th. The ride goes through both Jefferson and Marion counties, beginning and ending in Woodlawn.
Trinity Lutheran Wine and Beer Tasting on Saturday, April 28th from 7 to 11 at the Centralia American Legion. There will be music from 9 to 11 by Off the Chain and a silent and live auction. Tickets are $20 in advance. Call 532-5434.
Salem Comic and Toy Expo on Saturday, April 28th from 10 to 6 and Sunday, April 29th from 11 to 4 at the Salem Community Center. For more information, check out their Facebook page, Salem Comic Toy Expo.
Salem Community Center is hosting Glow Bingo on Saturday, May 5th. Doors will open at 6 p.m. and bingo will start at 7. $25 per person and over $1,000 in cash prizes. There will be a cash bar, concession stand, and a 50-50 raffle. For more information, call 548-6261.
Mount Vernon Festival Fun Night on Saturday, May 12th from 6 to 9 at Mount Vernon American Legion. Food, games, and fun. Tickets are $10 in advance. For more information, call 242-3151.
Spring book sale at the Centralia Regional Library will be held in the Munkin Activity Room on Saturday, May 19th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And a look at your local area blood drives. Wednesday, April 18th at Salem Community Center from noon to 6. Saturday, April 21st at Carlisle Dairy Queen, 11 to 2. Tuesday, April 24th at Kell Fire Department from 2 to 6. And that's a look at your community calendar on X95 and the Big 1210. If you have an event you would like to share with us, you can email wiley1210@gmail.com. Or for more information about these events and others, check out our website at x95radio.com.
That's it for this week. If you like what you hear, come back every Sunday at 11 on X95 and the Big 1210. You can find past shows on YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at X95WRXX. She's Rachel Roddy.
And he's Shane Lothar.
And this was Centralia On Air.